Hello and welcome to another chat with Matt. I hope you're well. If you're new to Chat with Matt, let me just explain a little bit about what these podcasts are for. Our aim is very, very simple. We want to give you one thing that you can take away from these podcasts to make a positive difference from you. So we invite thought leaders, industry experts to talk for no more than 10 minutes around their specialist area to give you that plus one thing. And that's what we're going to do again today. So I am delighted to be joined by a good friend of mine, Dan Weinfurter, who is a director for Mentor Group and runs our US business. Dan, how are you?
I am terrific. Greetings from downtown Chicago on a beautiful summer afternoon.
Yeah, we got the sunshine here today, which is quite unusual in the UK. So we've got that in common for a change, which is nice. So Dan, give me a sense of, I'm recording this in July 2020. I've talked on a couple of my other chats about the challenging times that we've had this year. What's your sense, Dan, on the business environment as we are today?
Well, it's hard to characterize it in a short period of time because it's complicated. It's a bit of a tale of two cities, if you will. There are some businesses that are doing really quite well, and I've actually been to meetings in the last couple of weeks in offices, and that there are others that are just completely and totally shut down with no hope for any recovery until the coronavirus is put at bay. And so it's a complex set of circumstances that we're all trying to navigate and do the best we can in what are, unprecedentedly difficult circumstances.
Yeah, and you use the word hope, and in some cases it might feel a little bit hopeless. In some cases it might feel hopeful, and I think we've got to try where we can to maintain or retain that level of hope, haven't we, as we move forward?
Yeah, hope is essential. Optimism is helpful too. This will get fixed at some point. I don't think it will run well into next year. I think by the end of the year, early in 2021, a vaccine will become available and things will start to return to normal, or a new definition of normal. But it certainly has been a year that all of us will remember for a very long time.
Oh yeah, that is for sure. That is absolutely for sure, and not for all the right reasons, certainly. So we continue where we can. We keep this hope. We talk about what we can do for businesses, and one thing that you specialize in is working with private equity organizations. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing in that space right now?
Sure, and I think the private equity partners that I've talked to, they would say a similar thing. It's a bit of a tale of those that are doing well and those that are really significantly impaired. So most of the big PE firms have put their portfolio companies into two buckets. And for those that are impaired, they're just trying to hang on and live for better times. For those that have good business conditions, they're doing all that they can to set their businesses up for success right now, but also strengthen things and improve the overall ecosystem so that they come out of this in really, really top form. And there's a bit of both that are going on. In our case, we try to help the private equity firms work with their portfolio companies to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of their sales organizations. It's an area where there's always work to do, always opportunity to improve a selling organization. Never changes.
So can you give me an example? If we're looking at ways to try and improve the efficiency, the productivity of some of the salespeople in their portfolio companies, how would we do that?
Well, a simple example. So for most complex services or products, the way it's been done for a long time is you use the phone and email to set a meeting, and then you go to a meeting, and then you have follow-on meetings, and the circle of decision makers, ultimately they're all met with. And you can't do any of that right now. And so most enterprise salespeople aren't really equipped to try to figure out how to sell entirely virtually. So it's a simple example where we can help a large organization or a portfolio company of a PE firm improve the skill set of the sellers to operate in what are very different circumstances than what they are used to and what they've found to be effective.
Because you've been doing this for a while now, right? You've been in a senior position, you've run companies, but even for you, this change over the last 3-4 months must be something, well, it's not something you've ever experienced before. What advice would you give to somebody who's experiencing a remote sales job for the first time? What would your one piece of advice be for them?
One piece of advice, I mean, it's probably pretty hard to narrow it down to one thing, but most folks have had to go through the stages of grief, if you will, denial, anger, and ultimately acceptance, because this is the circumstances that we're faced with, so we have to figure out how to deal with it. So I think be sensitive to the circumstances of the people that you're talking to. You don't know what they're going through. And it could be that in addition to difficult circumstances at work, who knows what's going on in their personal life. And so being sensitive, being kind, being thoughtful, that's always good advice, but even more so in times like this where people can be and oftentimes are profoundly impacted by what are really difficult circumstances in this country and around the world.
It's great advice. It's really great advice, actually. It really resonated with me, what you were saying there. So as we close off the piece on the PE focus that you've got, Dan, what would be your call to action? If you were a PE company listening to this, what would be your call to action for them?
Well, I think it's a multi-part strategy, but take a step back, try to the best of one's ability, look forward to what's likely to be in place next year and the year after, and then look at what you have in place today from a team's capability and potential. And to the extent that there's a gap, and there probably will be a gap, there always is a gap, plan for a series of actions and interventions that can be set up and staged over time to set the business up for the best success possible as conditions improve. So it's a combination probably of people, of capability, of skills, and of, I think importantly, making sure that you have a management team that is in place to support the team of people that they lead. Our experience is that more than anything else, sales leadership, having that first line sales leadership working well with really super capable people is a linchpin of success for most organizations. Right. It's a really hard role, and there aren't that many people that are great at it.
Agreed. Yeah, that's great advice, Dan. Thank you. So, given that you don't spend 24 hours a day, you might actually, but I'm sure you don't spend 24 hours a day working. You get a little bit of time called sleep. What do you do outside of your working hours, for recreation, let's say that?
There's a lot of things I like to do. I'm an avid cyclist, so I ride my bike. I don't do it every day, but I would like to do it every day. So I keep track of all my miles like any crazy cyclist. I like to golf, but I'm not that good. I read, and I have a wide circle of friends that I keep in touch with, and I have 2 daughters that I care deeply about. So I try to make sure I spend time on all of what I just mentioned. It's a good way to go through life.
Excellent, great. So if we, as we get towards the end of the chat today, what closing message would you like to leave for our listeners and readers based on everything that you've said over the last 10 minutes or so?
I think recognize the circumstances are challenging, but have a positive outlook. Live each day to the best of your ability, and look out for other people to the best you can as well. So
I think that's great advice. It's a common theme as we've been through, many of these podcasts now, that, that looking after each other, looking out for each other has come through from many different people. So Dan, thank you for that. Thank you for taking the time out. Thank you for listening and watching the chat with Matt today. We'll be back with another one again soon. Just leaves me to say, Dan, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, everybody.